Hello and welcome to another instalment of the Full Force Monthly, brought to you by Hoardar, the Collector's app. I am Christopher McLeod AKA Diagnostic 80, and in this regular series we get stuck into specific G.I. Joe related topics with different special guest hosts every single month, or the same ones all the time. So, who's joining me on this episode? Well, first up we have Ireland's foremost expert on snake eyes, co-author of the incredible Total series, including the upcoming Total Action Force Volume 2 Kickstarter, Paddy Total Package Lennon, and the hugely talented artist responsible for over 50 official G.I. Joe cardbacks, Adam Snitches Get Stitches Riches. But what, pray tell, are we discussing on today's episode then? Well, we thought after our O-Ring special last month, it was worth swinging back around to a focus on the classified series, and seeing as it's the month of Fools, we are looking at the kooky-er side of the brand and getting stuck into the weirdest characters we would love to see in the Hasbro 6-inch G.I. Joe line. So let's get stuck in, shall we? What is it, lads?
It's the Full Force Monthly.
I was going to say, this feels really weird not having Pat here. Can we just, get a clip of him?
It's the Full Force Monthly.
I should just use the one from last month and just have Pat randomly.
Just edit him in if you could, yeah.
It just doesn't feel the same. No offense, Pat.
No, it doesn't feel the same. No, I get it.
I tried.
Sorry, mate. Well, anyway, how's everyone doing today? It's been a long time, a month, since we had you guys on. I'm pretty sure you were on the last episode, weren't you? Paddy, I spoke to you a couple of days ago for the blooming Kickstarter.
Yes, for Kickstarter, yeah.
Adam, let's get stuck in with you, mate. How are you doing? It's been ages.
I'm doing good. Yeah, I don't know how to segue from pretending like I'm doing good to talking about what we have to talk about this week. Go to your local comic book store, find retailers everywhere, and pick up the G.I. Joe 40th Anniversary Special, which inside you will find this page that I drew.
Ooh, that's
which you
pretty.
Probably can't actually see in focus here. It's page number 9. And I had all this fun taking what was a page of Destro playing with chess pieces and turning them into vintage O-Ring action figures. I spent way longer on it than I should have. I did it for you, fans.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I can't wait to see that.
And we appreciate it, Adam.
Can you just show us? Can you just show us? Can you just show us every single page from the?
Or just read off a list of the other artists as well.
There's too many. But there's 22 artists. A lot of people a lot of people we like. Some friends of the show.
Awesome.
Some people that aren't friends of the show. My good buddy Chad Bowers did an essay. Sorry.
Fantastic.
It's awesome. It's got a full color reprint of the original number 21. Buy it.
Yeah, get out there and get it. That's out. When is it out? This week, isn't it?
It's Wednesday, right?
Yeah. Well, as we record this tomorrow, this ain't going out tomorrow or tonight.
Okay, so I've got a little early. We're actually recording today on Tuesday, April 12th. It comes out Wednesday, April 13th.
Can't wait. Cannot wait. Good work on that as well, Adam. Are you proud?
Yeah. It's I'm the hamster on the wheel, man. It's I do this stuff and then I just keep chugging along. So by the time it comes out, I almost feel a little disconnected from it.
I can imagine, because obviously you did the Super 7 box art for the Arctic Mission Rescue set recently. Yep. Multiple cards for the club over the years. Are there any other things we can look forward to, do you think? Can you give us any hints of stuff you're working on?
If you pick up the G.I. Joe role-playing guidebook, I just did a collab in there with Robert Atkins, and we got some real big stuff coming that I can't talk about yet. That's not from any of the aforementioned companies, so, put 2 and 2 together. Look for that later this year.
Hasbro. Brilliant. Can't wait.
Big as in, big, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. You never,
Like that big? Is it that big?
It could be this big, it could be this big, it could be this big, could
Brilliant.
be all of the above, could be none,
Amazing. I can't wait. I cannot wait to see what...
You might have already bought it, you might not, you never...
Well, yeah, might. You've probably pre-ordered it at some point.
You've probably pre-ordered it and it's coming out in January 2027.
You might have pre-ordered it and it could be sitting frozen in a warehouse and broiled in legal controversy. Yeah, you never know. We live in crazy times.
Amazing. Well, good to have you on, buddy. Good to have you on, as always. And Paddy, it's been a couple of days. Obviously, the Kickstarter is going strong. How's everything going there with you and your best mate, Outback?
Great. As you can see, Alexander Selkirk arrived there today.
So jealous. So jealous.
One of the rare times where Ireland gets something in advance of the United States. So I decided to put him on a table here so you could see him, and I can lord it all over ye.
God, just Yanks, rubbing it in.
Which are backed up ports and so on.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Whatever, mate.
Yeah, we all. Yeah.
I will say he's a very, very good figure. There's two things I dislike about him.
Ooh.
First of all, the weapons are extremely rubbery. The plastic is very pliable.
Right.
It's a bit of a step back from the Alley Viper weapons or the Viper weapons. Or whatever.
Interesting.
And I really wish he had the homemade kitty shirt. This deco Tampo one it's too professional. He really needs just a little,
They should have done like an alternate torso.
An alternate torso, or just a Tampo that you could stick over it and give him the old homemade. I'm a real fan of cats. And I've taken
what would have been funnier is if they'd have done more of a cat sweater design for the actual updated logo. It would have been so amazing that.
Or you know what? Even just put a Tampo somewhere, like on his shoulder or something, of the original cat. I'd love that. A little callback. But,
that would have been dope.
But other than that, he's a very, very good figure. He is, the same figure we've got about 15 times now. That T-shirt torso. Very buff man T-shirt torso, but yeah, good figure, great head sculpt, nice colors. Yeah,
awesome.
It's a good figure.
It's fine. That would be 5 stars on General's Joe's then, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because there's a couple of things I don't like about it. So like 6 stars on General's Joe's. For me, it's a 4.5 pedating bill.
Oh, okay, good. Well, I can't wait to get mine in the next 700 years. Anyway, we are not here to talk about all of this good stuff. We're here to talk about the Classified series, and with the odd maybe we'll throw some O-ring chat in there as well. But let's get on with it, shall we? Having endured April Fool's Day a week and a half ago, we thought it would be fun to look at some of the brand's more out-there characters with an eye on their possible inclusion in the Classified line. We will each give up some of our fave options and talk them through with the group, and then let you guys decide on the winner, which we will reveal on next month's episode. Okay, let's start with our Emerald Isle beauty, Paddy Lennon. Give us one of your choices, pal. Let's start with you, mate.
So my first choice, as a weird classified choice, is the Heat Viper version 1.
Ooh, that's not weird, man. That is fire.
I just picked him because he's a little bit later in the vintage line than a lot of the stuff they've done so far. I think is he 89 or 88?
I want to say 80. It might be 88 in the US.
Maybe 89 here. But obviously we've got the Alley Viper, who was out the same year, I did believe, in the vintage line, and I think I just want somebody to join the Alley Viper in the whole I'm bright, I'm obnoxious, and I'm loud and proud colour schemes.
He was 89, so he was 89, so he probably would have been 90 for us.
Yeah, so it's a great design, the vintage figure. And even the modern era figure they did in the 50th anniversary, I think, as well. But I think nowadays it could even serve to be like updated a little bit more, because kind of anti-tank warfare has kind of moved on even in the last 30 years. You have, the idea of, you could give him a Javelin missile launcher and maybe one of those kind of switchblade drones in a backpack. You can have a backpack launch drone and stuff. So I think there's something there. You could move him. He's somebody that, like, that whole concept has moved on. Yeah,
like in the world it has.
In technology, in the world it has. So you could really take those new ideas, put them 5 years into the future again, and do a new version of the Heat Viper, I think. And that's why I picked him. Plus also, you'd have the Python Patrol option then to do later on as well, with the whole Python Patrol series.
Look at you doing pre-paints. Look at that.
Pre-paints. Yeah.
That's awesome, mate. The Heat Viper for me is I wouldn't even say it's kooky. I think it's absolutely insanely good. Like, it's one of those figures that, like, again, in the modern line, in the modern era, they did a really good version of that kind of vintage upgrade. And funny enough, as a kid, I didn't read a lot of the file card early on, and I just got the figure and thought it was awesome, and thought it was a blooming flamethrower because of the whole heat thing and all that jazz. Ignoring the fact that the dude has actual ammunition on his ankles to go in the bloody thing, I just thought it was a huge flamethrower. But anyway, that was obviously, as I read the file card and realised it wasn't, I felt like an idiot. Adam, is this up there for you as something you would like to see in the line again revisited?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Paddy and I might have read the homework slightly different. When you said wacky, I meant crazy. I think Heat Viper is top shelf for me. I think he's a perfectly awesome design. I love him. The 50th figure is one of my favorite modern era figures. So I don't even think he's that out of the box. I think he's a very welcome and ready addition to the line. I sign me up. I'll take it right now.
I was going to choose Ice Cream Soldier, but I thought I didn't want to get lynched by the G.I. Joe fan community for suggesting such a thing.
Even better. And you can get a pre-paint out of him and turn him into Lieutenant Claymore. So,
So true, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say Ice Cream Soldier, ironically being a flamethrower specialist, as I've just, proven my idiocy as a child about the Heat Viper. Even the fact that it was, it's even says the HEAT stands for anti-tank, doesn't it? High explosive anti-tank.
High explosive anti-tank.
Which is hilarious for me to kind of miss the point on that completely.
But in your defense, he has a huge tube that connects to the launcher, which, I don't think that's something you normally associate with that. When I think of a bazooka or a launcher, I'm not thinking of it having a hose connected to it. So also, that always gave me real flamethrower vibes too.
How dope was the fact that it was held kind of inverted, so the handle was on the top?
Yeah.
That was pretty dope, I thought, as a bit of a design thing. I mean, imagine holding that with one hand, by the way, as well. It's a heavy old tube.
For 30 years, my Heat Viper was actually holding it over the shoulder. I didn't get that hold under anything at all. I had him holding it like this.
It sort of lines up with the backpack pipes as well, doesn't it? Or it's supposed to, but it doesn't actually connect. But so yeah, that maybe there's something they could do really awesome there in a classified style. I'm thinking flexible piping coming out of the backpack that similar design but is flexible and can latch onto it. How cool would that be?
I think what he really needs is a flame trail accessory that snaps onto the rocket and connects, because then that would really better clarify that it's not a flamethrower and it is in fact a rocket launcher.
That would be sweet. Or with the little
launching missile effect. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that would be so cool. Yeah, I'm kind of the more we talk about this, the more I'm like, Paddy, I was already sold on it. This is going to win it now because it's so totally obvious. Love that. Yeah, it's a great shout on that one. Okay, Adam, let's get on to one of yours as well, bud, because we've only got an hour.
Well, I'm going to get the real obvious one right out of the way. It's Globulus.
Wow.
I love his character in the movie,
wow.
But I don't think there's any denying that the flexible tail was a fun thought with kind of a lackluster execution. So Classified could really be the ultimate opportunity here, I guess, to take that and just make it the awesome deluxe figure that it really deserves to be. I think you could articulate it, but not only that, I mean, the movie showed all this just gross detail, just the claw was all mangled and slime dripping, and, his eye was full of pus and the time worm. And I mean, there's just so much stuff that is just not at all conveyed in the O-ring figure that I feel like this is really that opportunity to just run wild with him. And you could have really elaborate packaging that has spores in the background and just so much cool stuff, so much meat on the bone. And really a character that, you either love or hate the movie, but a character that really hasn't been delved into all that much. And just texturally, I think there's so much cool stuff that Classified really excels at that this figure would benefit from, the lobster armor and just so many cool things that, scarring on the head or whatever, just all kinds of cool stuff. That the way that the green arm transitions into the skin could be all, bio-organic grossness. I just feel like in the capable hands of somebody like, Fred, Corey, a really competent sculptor could take this thing and just make it sing. And I feel like, especially with the deluxe format, similar to Crocmaster or something, where you could really make use of that larger packaging.
Actually, you mentioned Crocmaster there, but that's where they could kind of take a kind of leaf out of their own book there of the tail on Fiona, which is kind of flexible, isn't it? It's kind of wit squidgy and flexible. Same. I should say squidgy and inflexible. But yeah, like that, if they do that with Globulus's tail for classified, that would be pretty dope, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing, well, I guess you could make it removable, but I also really want to see him have the flight pod, which is something that's never been done in toy form. I mean, I know everyone's made that Trendmasters War Planets custom a million times, which is why that totally random 90s toy is now worth a fortune, because everyone wants Globulus pods. But I feel like that's another thing that would just really lend itself to this. So.
In terms of like practical, aspect of say packaging, you could have it split in half, right? That piece, front and back, so that the front. So when you look at it from the front, you don't have a line down the middle, but also when you package it, you have the front over him, and then the back is like behind a bit of some of the display. So that would be really dope. Like you could definitely do that. As a half kind of scenario to wrap around him. I'd be well into that, buddy. Well into that.
In fact, if with I don't know how it would look with the move towards plastic-free packaging, but if they even wanted to, they could take off his snake tail and like cut a window for it and make that blend into one of the spores, in the background if you wanted to economize space or whatever. Like, there's so much cool stuff that you could do with it, and like I think especially seeing the Mindbender packaging the other day, like it just made my mind run wild with what you could do with Globulus. And
I'm not kidding. I think that is just the best execution of packaging I've seen so far in the line. Like it's just so good, isn't it? Like all the little like touches, like the half sleeve kind of like slip cover, that hides that genius Illuminati Cobra DNA logo, which is just insane. Like it's really simple, that DNA. Anyway, we're getting off the topic here, but I'm just kind of thinking that DNA thing is such a simple design, but makes so much sense, doesn't it? Like when you see it.
Oh yeah,
excellent work. I would also probably say though, Adam, one thing, Time Worm, cutest thing ever, and if they don't include that in any sort of Globulus thing, then the company need destroying from the ground up, because that needs to happen. And also, do you not think this is more Super 7 territory than classified?
It probably is, but I feel like the reason that I'm thinking of this for classified is because Super 7 would approach this in a very animation model accurate way, which is good but simplistic, whereas I think that classified could get into all the really gnarly textural details and really just almost make it very like horrific, I guess. Like give him an alternate head that has the exploded eye that the Time Worm could plug into. Like there's just so much cool stuff that you could do with that, or like an extra claw hand that's got like the exposed nails and slime drip. I mean, there's just so many cool things you could do that I feel like are almost bordering on the macabre that I don't think Super 7 would want to get into.
Yeah. I know I can envision now like a Super 7 homage loadout for someone like him, for someone like Pythona. Do you know what I mean? Like there's so many amazing. I mean, Pythona's like, her whole breaking into the Terradrome, the infiltration scene at the beginning of the movie, like all of those weapons, like the squidgy starfish that's face hugger, the barnacle tapeworm.
Yeah, the gem of that size, the clam with the hologram BET, and I mean, there's so much.
Four-headed electricity chewing snake thing as well at the beginning. Yeah, just so much.
Alternate legs for when she randomly has purple legs and when she doesn't. I mean, there's a million things, and like it goes without saying, if Super 7 does anything Cobra Law, I'm all there for it. But I feel like Globulus is just the one instance where classified could really just make something totally like gross horror movie awesome. That
is a legit shout. I mean, Paddy, is that something you're into?
Well, I mean, I'm always in the market for more bald representation in G.I. Joe figure lines. But yeah, as Adam says, as soon as Adam mentioned Globulus, first thing I thought was, a really good sculptor could do a great job of him. Like we literally had the same thought, that you could really get into the detail there with that character. So I think it would be a perfect fit for a classified figure. Really a nice San Diego kind of box set, PulseCon box set. That character would be, to continue on the bald trajectory of Dr. Mindbender. The next one would be Globulus. I think is something I'd be fully behind.
I'd also love it if they did like the reverse art, like specifically to Globulus and like Cobra La, and that's where you could like put in loads of hints at possible future figures like Nemesis Enforcer and Pythona, the Royal Guard. I was gonna leave Royal Guard out just to see what Adam said at the end.
Update for the listeners. We're at 175. We're inching up to that 200 milestone.
That's impressive. I heard you got your first ever factory error variants as well.
I did. I'm excited. He has no armband paint.
I'll flash an image up. Don't worry, guys. That's amazing. Okay, well, that's Globulus. That's actually absolutely superb. So that's two beauties we've got straight away out the gate. Okay, so I will go next then. And for me, my first one probably will actually take a few people by surprise. Obviously, it's kooky as heck. And it's not. It is something we've discussed in the past. But my choice, first choice, is Raptor. Now, the reason I've gone with this particular character is just, well, for one, it was probably one of the most out there overall character designs, backstories, specialties, etc., that you could even hope to imagine from the G.I. Joe world. And we've had, obviously, the first vintage figure, which is absolutely gorgeous, and also one of my faves, actually, as a kid. I used to love that figure, mainly because it had, like, you know, a little soft goods thing, and that was different and kind of interesting at the time. And obviously the animal companion, Talon, which was amazing. Like, you know, having those kind of, like, added aspects was just like, oh, this is so cool. And then, of course, we had a few kind of modern era versions of him. The Club probably did it the best, in my opinion, at that 4-inch. Although the kind of, was it Rise Cobra? Was it like not? It was Zartan, wasn't it?
Zartan,
that was it. Yeah,
Cobra Zartan, who basically is Raptor.
Yeah, kind of took a lot of cues from it. But yeah, the Raptor 4-inch modern Club figure is just an absolute beauty. But anyway, I would like to see Raptor in the classified line, and if they're gonna go closer to vintage, which is kind of what the design is going with now as we kind of move forward, that isn't like the worst thing for me, because I think there's still a lot of stuff on that figure that, even with that slight classified touch, even if it's not like a complete upgrade like we've seen with a number of early figures, even when it is sticking close to the vintage, there are still elements that get that even better touch with that scale, like Adam was talking about, the texture, and there's a lot of cool textures going on. I know for the most part he's topless, but you know, if you're talking about that amazing wingsuit, they could do something really cool with that, I think. So that would be something I would love to see them attempt. And obviously we haven't even touched on it just yet, but the character is bonkers. The guy is like admin, accountancy. That's what he is. And also, is it falconry? Is it said? I mean, he's got raptors, basically. He's a bird handler, effectively. So this is something that is just bird of prey, but you know what I mean? Just really interesting to me, and I would love to see them approach it. And like the way they did Crocmaster, apply the same the same kind of, you know, texture, like all the same things apply effectively, is what I'm saying.
Well, again, we've talked about bald representation. I'm also a big fan of accountancy representation as an accountant. So we're hitting all of my buttons tonight.
Accountancy representation.
And in fact, I think they should really play up the accountancy angle with a classified Raptor. He should have a briefcase. Yeah. He should have a bunch of ledgers, personal calculator,
Rolodex.
Rolodex. You know, and a really frustrated expression on, because he's had to file a bunch of FE1s for his tax clearance.
Amazing.
So really, he should have that sort of stuff as well. Like deluxe set, tons of financial paperwork included in the box,
tons of taxes,
and the box art should actually, you should have the cool bit of box art where he's, you know, letting his bird go. But one of the other pieces of the box art should be him sitting at a desk, really trying to
like Harvey Birdman,
with those hats on, yes, but trying to work out somebody's tax liability. Should be on the box art.
In his suit with the wings and the hat, just like Harvey Birdman at Law. How brilliant would that be? Oh, that has to happen.
A little calendar in the background with the tax deadline, date mark circled in red ink.
You know the slip covers on the deluxe. They need to have the top one have like feathers all over it, and then when you slip it off, the next one has money all over it, just all textural. You know,
that's so genius.
Give him the Pink Daddy Destro suitcase of money as well.
Oh yeah,
big time.
Yeah,
big
and
time.
And they could correct something with that accessory that's always bothered me. That the Prophet Director, even though he's possibly my favorite classified figure, he comes with money that's on fire, but the money was cast in green and the fire was painted orange. I just want them to cast that accessory in translucent orange and paint the money green, because if the fire looked more realistic, it would be like, so this is a chance to redeem that piece for Raptor.
Agreed.
I will say on that figure, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. There is a Power Rangers Lightning Collection figure called Tenga Warrior. And
with the bird.
Giant crow.
Yeah.
That figure is sculpted and painted so beautifully that it almost looks like a real crow, how they have the like various like hues of purple and green and like almost like a metallic shimmer when you look at them in the sunlight. The way that figure was handled, I don't know if they brought in some like, Audubon Society specialist to sculpt that one or something, but like, it looks so realistic and so bird-like. Just whatever they did to that, do that to Raptor, and it'll be the best classified figure in the line.
No, totally.
It was so cool. In fact, you could just take that figure's head and hollow it out and stick it on a bald guy's head.
So I had this thought, because we're talking packaging a little bit before.
Yep.
I had this thought the other day: how much fun would it be to really play up the specialties with the deluxe packaging? And if we ever got like Outback again, for example. If we got Outback with like more survival gear, for example, like either in Night Force or like, and even in his standard deco, how cool would it be to make his packaging like a survival manual, like one of those old like ring bound kind of manuals where you open up and you've got all like your how to like set up camp, what berries to eat, and all that kind of crap that you'd get in like one of these military kind of hand manuals.
How to make a tiger trap.
That kind of stuff. That's
actually,
amazing.
You just given me an idea. If they're going to do the plastic-free packaging, his should look like an MRE, and when you open it, it'll be like a green bag of like, 50-year-old food, but when you open the bag, the figure's inside.
That's genius. The MREs were great. Those like little green bags, they were wicked. My dad had a few of those actually, and I remember having them as a kid. And I don't know what we did with them. He must have thrown them out, obviously, because they must have been.
They're probably still good.
Yeah, you probably open them and still eat them. Yeah, that was like 40 years ago. No, that's a great idea. But that's kind of what I want them to do. Ever since like they with the Mindbender laboratory kind of idea, I think that's genius. And I think they need to really lean into that with all of their deluxes, like really lean into the specialties, because that's where you get the fun stuff happening and the really exciting little nods and homages. So yeah, that was like something I was thinking about with Outback the other day. And then obviously with Raptor, you've got the opportunity to do like, silly stuff like the taxes, but then also the bird angle with like the textured, feathered, that would be so dope, wouldn't it? Like imagine the Snake Eyes Deluxe box, but instead of that like design, it's feathers, and the raised element are like little elements of the feathers. That would be so cool, wouldn't it?
I'd love it. And there's so many like opportunities, and Super 7 is doing this a little bit right now, but like opportunities to take the elements of the characters that already existed and just expand upon them. So like, maybe his animal companion now comes with the hood for the the little helmet, or maybe he comes with a bird cage to put him in,
yes.
Or like stuff like that. Like there's so many ways that you can just expand upon what's already there.
That's so true, and also give him like one of those like gloves as well, like the gloved hands, like one of his gauntlets can have like the straps coming off it for when he lands on it, and he's kind of got the straps. It looks like it's coming off the bird's legs, if you know what I mean. That'd be so dope. Anyway, yes, okay. Well, that's Raptor. I'm glad you agree on getting Raptor in there. Paddy, coming back to you, mate. Let's get on with your second version or your second choice.
Okay, so an issue I'm having with Classified is we're all the weird environment troopers. The G.I. Joe team choice has been mostly kind of very safe.
Yeah, land-based.
The squad so far is dudes in t-shirts and vests. Roadblock, all the Roadblocks, Duke, Flint, Gung Ho, Breaker, Outback. It's like the team are sponsored by Hot Topic or something. We need to get Arctic guys. We need to get divers. We need to get mountaineers. So I'm pitching Undertow. Because he's a diver, but he's a weird one. He's a later release again. He has a skiff that's shaped like a manta ray. He has a trident. He has that cool mask. So he's a bit more out there than, say, a Cobra Eel would be. And I think he deserves, a chance at this sort of scale. Again, it's a figure I think would work very well at the 6-inch scale. And then what you could do is obviously you'd have that same basic kind of diverse body. You change the secondaries, change the accessories, and then you could do the eel later. You could do torpedo later, as long as you got that kind of basic underwater dude tooling.
Stop thinking so practically.
Yeah.
No, that's great, man.
But
yeah.
first, it has to be the Undertow, because again, he is the weirdest looking of those underwater troopers, and I think he's a nice design. And the accessories as well.
On my choice, I might challenge your decision on the weirdest looking underwater trooper, but that is a great shout. And also Undertow is that one that has got, I would say, less out of, well, maybe version 2 eels and Undertow have got probably a similar level of media behind them, where they haven't, the comics really had a lot of the eels version 2 in. Eels were pretty prevalent throughout the early years in the comics and the cartoon, but then Undertow got the Deep cartoon really, but then there's not a lot really going on with the Undertow. You don't really see it that often, and it doesn't really get talked about. But Destro needs underwater troops, and that's a great start, isn't it? I know Adam's probably into that.
Oh yeah, Undertow is one of the first 10 figures I owned as a kid. Right at the entry point of my collecting. Featured prominently in the Deke series, which I was watching obsessively at the time. I'm all about that figure. I love it. I think it's one of the best G.I. Joe figures, top 50 maybe of all time for me.
Awesome.
And that he's had 4 repaints, and all of them are great. So, I would it doesn't even matter which version to me. And again, I just think it's the same idea. You can take the accessories that he already came with initially and expand upon them. Like, he came with a Barracuda, maybe he comes with a school of them. Maybe he comes with some kind of, fishing trap. I don't know. Like, there's so many, but
a Barracuda bazooka.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe he comes with an album, Hearts album, Barracuda, on vinyl. There's so many, there's just so many good options. What I would really love to see more than anything, and this was featured prominently in Deke, and in my mind, I always associate them together, even though they're not really. I would like to. One of my favorite vehicles from that time is the Piranha. I'd love to see him as a pack-in driver for a Piranha, because that's a vehicle that's small enough that you could definitely do it for classified.
That's a great shout.
But yeah, you're not going to hear any complaints out of me on Undertow. I think they're totally awesome. I love them.
Yeah, big shout there, Paddy. I like that one. Although, like I said, I will be challenging you on my second choice in a little while on the weirdest looking underwater specialist. But yes, let's also make it a point, because you did make a point about this earlier on. The releases so far have not featured any winter, have not featured any underwater, have not featured any, Air Force, obviously, because a lot of the time they're intended to have vehicles with them, but you've still got like paratroopers and all that kind of stuff, to utilize, like Crazy Legs and Ripcord and, big players in the game. So I am also going to kind of back up that point that we really haven't seen the G.I. Joe team explored in a great way, despite having a lot of figures so far. Are there any in particular, just while we're on that subject, that you're surprised we haven't seen yet, where they could have maybe delved into some different areas?
Actually, I think a parachutist is actually one that is noticeably missing, because having a parachutist was even going back to the days of 12-inch Joe. There was always a paratrooper, out there almost since the start of the line.
Yeah, and there's so many of them in Joe as well.
Exactly, you have Airborne, you have Ripcord, you've all of those characters.
Freefall, Crazy Legs, the entire Sky Patrol. It's nuts.
Yeah. So there's dozens of them on the G.I. Joe team. So why haven't we got one of them yet?
Yeah, I'm surprised Ripcord hasn't popped up, honestly. I'm surprised. And Airborne's another good one. I think they could.
Now, obviously, we're getting Ripcord, with the Sky Striker. But,
yeah, I guess.
One in classified seems to be a bit of an oversight.
And on the Arctic side, since we're still so very much stuck in core character syndrome, I'm shocked that we haven't gotten Iceberg or Snowjob yet, who are both so prominent in Sunboat era, which is kind of what we're clinging to. I feel like those have got to be right around the corner.
Definitely. That's basically Undertow then, even though it went on a completely different tangent there. No, but good shout, Paddy. I like that one. Adam, what's your second choice, bud?
All right, so I got a real out-of-the-box one for you guys here. Depending on how you look at this, he could have been late 94 or 2001, but I am going with Manimals Iguanas.
Oh my goodness me.
I think that this, and I've got some logic here I'll give you. I think this, instead of going for the whole outer space alien thing, which, because we don't have Star Brigade, that's a little disconnected right now, I think that it could be a Mindbender experiment.
Oh.
And you can continue to play on the whole Cobra Science double helix, box motif. But I think that, again, I'm thinking with Classified, you can take the most boring, guy in a t-shirt and jeans, and just because of the texture and the scale of it, that's, it feels so much more, I don't know, special, I guess, than a 4-inch figure in that
substantial.
way. Substantial, yeah. And I feel like this is an area where a lot of O-ring collectors, kind of poo-pooed Manimals at the time because they just seem cartoonish. But I feel like, again, playing up the sort of horror, science aspect of it. I don't know if you guys remember exactly which one this is, but this figure has like an alligator chest mouth thing that, opens up and clamps out. And
yeah,
that would work beautifully at this scale. It eliminates the brutal chest cut, and I just think it would be a really awesome figure. Also, the only time that Iguanus was released was in the KB exclusive 2001 set, where they had repainted them all. So I think that this could be a fun opportunity to go back and put him in his original black and white deco without upsetting the people that spent their retirement fund to get a pre-production version, because it's a whole different figure, but still harkens back to the version 1. I think that obviously we've seen what a beautiful job they did on Crocmaster's Crocodile, and I feel like you could just take that head and stick it in the chest of a 6-inch figure and
done.
Get even more fun and mileage out of it. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's just so many like interesting, weird avenues you could go with this, with the science aspect. Like the way that Mindbender's been presented for me just opened up a whole world of possibilities about what kind of strange DNA, genetic, et cetera, and I feel like this is your opportunity to do something like that and Classified and have it be taken seriously and not be viewed as some weird off-kilter end of the line thing, but really embraced this time around.
Also, it opens the door for the other Manimals. It's not just Iguanus that has to be or Iguanus, as I want to call it, because
you want to call it? You mean Iguanus? Yeah. Yeah, and in fact, they could even come up with a cool backstory that, like, instead of being aliens this time around, maybe they're like humans that he experienced. They're Cobra soldiers that he did this to, and you could have all kinds of disgusting box art that shows them all turning into whatever. Like, so
that's a great idea.
Yeah,
great idea.
A lot of Mindbender talk today.
I wonder green and red as the Kraken.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes, a little bit of homage repaints, a pre-paint, an homage UK homage pre-paint. I'm into it, man. Totally. The weirder, the kookier, the more bonkers, definitely the better. And I'm with you 100% on that. Paddy, do you like the sound of Iguanus?
Adam has sold me on the whole let's go weird science on this. Beat that.
Beep.
But yeah, Adam has sold me on the whole let's go weird science on this stuff, because actually that's I've always loved the more sci-fi aspects of G.I. Joe. So going that direction in a year or two's time, I'm for it.
Definitely.
Oh, and then maybe this is where we introduce the actual character Sci-Fi, because he's the only one that can combat all of these weird sci-fi experiments that Mindbender's created.
Also, it's not a bad idea that we have. Maybe it could be something that Mindbender's experimenting with. Something extraterrestrial has hit the Earth, and it's not necessarily an alien, but it's extraterrestrial technology, or it's like extraterrestrial. Like how Venom is like a symbiote and all that kind of jazz. Maybe it's something that crash lands to Earth that Mindbender, the mission is to go and retrieve it, and then some of the troops that have gone to retrieve it in certain different locations of the world, different specialisms and so on and so forth.
If you've watched The Expanse, the proto-molecule.
Yeah, there you go. Then, they get like infected a little bit, and then Mindbender starts his experiments and creates these extraterrestrial mixed kind of, humanoid creatures.
On that note, the recent NECA Ninja Turtles Mutagen Man figure came with this jar of... and I mean, how cool would that be to get some...
Sounds really...
For anyone listening to this, Adam, I just want to explain what Adam did there. Is a little tub of goo that he was waving around. Don't worry.
That sounds even worse.
Nothing else happened on screen. It does actually sound worse, doesn't it?
Imagine this in like neon blue, Compound Z or something. You start or black, whatever. Pack it with the figures as like some kind of symbiote slime, whatever. Like, how cool would that be?
See a doctor as well, Adam, if it's that color in the.
Yeah.
For our listeners, It's the toy. It's nothing else. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great idea. And then obviously, like, you like almost like a gimmick, like the Mega Marines and the monsters and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, totally with you on that. And then maybe you can incorporate those kind of wacky elements as well, because it's all Mindbender experimentation. You know, you can mix it in with that, with the storyline, and then you can always bring Star Brigade in because of the extraterrestrial aspect.
Eventually, they'll run out of dudes in t-shirts to do figures on, so they need to go wacky.
Star Brigade t-shirt brigade, yeah. Amazing. Okay.
Hot Topic Squadron.
Right. In that case, it's me now, isn't it? Yeah, great shout, Adam. I love that one. That's again, that really is wacky and out there. Now, my one, I kind of went probably a little bit safer again. I wouldn't say Raptor was super safe, but this next one is one I've talked about a lot in the past. It's my favorite Cobra Trooper of all time. And in my opinion, Paddy, this is a bit wackier looking than the Undertow. And that is the Hydro Viper. Now, again, this probably is more of a no-brainer than it is a kooky wacky one, but I think it kind of definitely seeps into that area because of, you know, the deco is out there, that kind of purple and that beautiful like deep maroony kind of red color. It's just really, there's some gorgeous stuff going on in terms of the deco. It looks bonkers. It looks intimidating. It looks incredible. Textures up the wazoo. That, you know, that's another thing. Like at that scale, you could really experiment with scaly kind of texturing, with other kind of, you know, like more kind of suit, like wetsuit textures as well, like different ones, different paneling, all that kind of good stuff. There's obviously the animal companion aspect as well. So there's you know, more bonus, more added value with the Ray, who's called Ray. I'm just kidding. I don't know if it's called Ray or not. But, you know, that would be awesome. And you can make that a little bigger, make it a bit more imposing as well. And you could really go to town on some of the details. Like when you turn them upside down, they have that really cute face in real life. You know, you could like really intimidating Ray, and then you turn upside down, there's this big smile and two gorgeous eyes.
Quick sidebar, do you remember when we went to that restaurant in Nashville that was an aquarium, and there was that one that was pressed against the glass, and he was so happy?
He was so happy looking. I do remember that. I think I have a video of that, which I will desperately try and find and put on this video. But yeah, that was hilarious. And yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Like, you know, play up those kind of aspects to the animal companion. But then obviously you get into the actual figure, removable helmet, which looks like the Predator's helmet. This, you know, gorgeous, again, loads of like points and peaks and all sorts of cool stuff going on. And then you can have like, you know, the more kind of standard, almost like they could even use the Cobra Trooper head, because it's very similar to that. If you look at the Hydro Viper standard vintage head, it's very similar to what they actually did with the Cobra Trooper, Cobra Island version and the infantry. You know, that kind of like the lines and the detailing and all sorts. You could really go to town with that. And again, there's a lot of cool stuff about the backstory in the, you know, the webbed hands. Those amazing like webbed flippers they have as well, like almost like dragon claws. There's so much cool stuff that you can really throw in there. And then obviously there's the weaponry and the accessories, and again you've got, you know, the breather, you've got the backpack with the oxygen tank on it, the harpoon gun, the serrated dagger. You could like have points to actually attach them to his thighs this time as well, which is a bit of a shortcoming on the vintage figure, but the only shortcoming in my opinion on it. And like I said, all of the crazy backstory of the experimentation they do on the humans to, you know, on I think it's like eels that then go into this next phase, and it's only the best of the best that can do it, and they have like all of these experiments done on them to make them be able to breathe under like much crazier depths, and then also subcutaneous fat production is increased, so that yeah, it's just so much interesting cool stuff. So yeah, that's definitely my pick, I think, for that's my number one pick really. What say you, Paddy? I know you were talking about Undertows earlier, but what say you about Hydro Viper?
I'm always in the mood for more seafarers. I was going to say seamen, but I thought that would be people.
You said it anyway, and that's why I love you. There you go. Thanks, Adam.
I'm really lowering myself here. You're better than this, Adam.
You really are not. I'm kidding. You are.
So yeah, let's get a Hydro Viper Undertow box set and call it the Seamen.
I love it. I absolutely love it, and I think that is a great idea. I definitely think some sort of like versus packs are something they could really do as a like torpedo versus eels, wetsuit versus undertows, and then like what's wackier, Deep Six versus the Hydro Viper, just this big block, just a block of plastic.
He's just a brick. Painted to look like Deep Six.
All I can think about with that figure now is that Robot Chicken zoo sketch. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
At the end of it, he just says, "Take that, everyone who said I was useless," and is already.
Amazing. What about you, Adam? Are you into the Hydro Viper? Would you like to see that classified scale?
Yeah, absolutely. As you know, I mean, same as everything here. It's all about that texture and those details and stuff. I mean, this is a point I'll be going back to, I think, in a minute here with version therapy as well. But I just think that O-Ring Joes, really a lot of it is imagination based. Like they're not obviously extremely realistic. The card art and play the comic, all these things help to inform your mental image of the figure. But when you actually look at the figure on its own, they're simple-ish, I guess. And I think that this is an opportunity, where you could just really go in there and just bring all those little things to life and make it something extra special. I will say this though, out of all of the Vintage Joe card art, that Earl Norham Hydro Viper card is so good. I would not want to illustrate the box for that figure. No one's touching that one. I guess that's all I'm saying. They maybe put him on a retro card and just reissue the old art.
I was thinking actually with that, to get around that, you could go all in on a deluxe, right? And then on the back, you could have all those homages of those experiments they go through kind of storied out in a similar way they did with Mindbender and Arise Spencer Rise. You could have them getting injected with subcutaneous fat, for example. But you could see like webbed hands like all like lined up on a wall that they're about to like attach to this poor human being on a table. But I don't know, there's just so many cool things they could do, and they could really go to town with it. And like how the way they did Mindbender with his huge arms in the middle of that shot, just have a Hydro Viper kind of doing something really creepy underwater. That's the only way you'd get over that Earl Norham art, because the Earl Norham art is absolutely
it's untouchable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
I mean, I know this is the antithesis of plastic-free packaging, but like, I think this would be a figure that you could do something really cool with too, where he was packaged underwater and just have like a whole like translucent blue clear front, and have him posed in action like he's the demon of the deep. Have him down creeping underwater. I think that would look.
Just package him in a fishbowl.
Yeah,
that would be sweet actually. And have his Ray up against the wall with his big smile on his face as well. That'd be so sweet. Amazing. Okay, well, right, yeah, well, that's the Hydro Viper, guys. Now, for obviously our listeners and viewers, they will sign off now on our little classified chat, but we've kind of come up with 6 options there. Now, we'd like to know what you guys think. Obviously, there's a little kind of like friendly competition going on here, and then, so if you can pick out of those 6, your favorite, we'll post it on Facebook, we'll post it on Twitter and all those good places as well, so you can kind of get involved with it. And then we'll see what the consensus is out of those particular picks. But then also tell us who you want to see as well. Like, are there any kooky, weird, out there characters you want to see in the classified line? Let us know in the comments and all that good stuff as well. Now, right, well, that's kind of classified based on all those, but we also kind of wanted to throw in a little bit of O-Ring love as well. I've been forced to do this. I'm just kidding. Guys, you had some O-Ring picks as well, didn't you, for like maybe this newer, the new O-Ring line that Hasbro have got, what you'd like to see reissued, or even new stuff that might have not seen the light of day in the O-Ring lineup before. So, Paddy, what were your little couple of options? And you can just talk about both of them and we'll rinse through these.
Yeah, sure. I kind of went from the whole, they're doing 2-packs now aspect of it.
Good idea.
And obviously the best sub-team of all time was released in G.I. Joe and the Vintage line as 2-packs.
Battle Force
2000.
Yay!
They were originally single carded, and then in 1988, I believe, they got 2-pack releases. So it's destiny that they should show up in the new O-ring line. The two strongest designs, Battle Force 2000, in my opinion, are Blaster and Dodger. So
Space Marine.
Put Blaster and Dodger in now, 2-pack there, and get it out there, Lenny, if you're listening. And the other one I'd like to see done is Iron Grenadiers Aerial Assault 2-pack. You get yourself a target and an annihilator, put them in a 2-pack as a troop builder, and I'll buy several of them.
Target exclusive.
Yes, a Target exclusive. There you go.
That would be great. Two great shouts there, actually. And I really, the Target, what a beautiful vintage figure. Annihilator too, but the Target, so many like the visor, the backpack with the little wings. Oh, it's just so dope. The little, the hose and it's such a cool.
And just the entire concept of just these high speed orbital shock troopers is amazing.
Terrifying as well, isn't it? Like it's
terrifying idea. It's really cool. It's a really futuristic idea, and the fact that we never got a modern era version of that figure,
crazy,
absolutely kills me.
Crazy,
kills me.
Why not? Don't understand it.
Well, you've got a pre-paint Create a Cobra there, so all the more reason. Yeah,
absolutely.
I like them all. I don't. I'm not huge into the idea of straight up reissue, so they'd have to find some way to change them up a little, even if that's, I don't know, maybe do Battle Force characters in like Sonic Fighter colors that never existed to go with the Dodger that did, or whatever. I mean, there's cool stuff you could do with it. I like the characters. Sweet. I just I'm kind of checked out on straight up reissue.
So what are yours?
I've got two. They're not related. They're not coming as a 2-pack. They're just two figures I want. First up is Venomous Maximus. I think that the new Sculpt 2000s era doesn't get a lot of love, and I understand why, because its predecessors are beloved, and what came after it is some of the best modern figures ever. So, they're kind of caught in no man's land. And I realize that is an O-ring figure, actually, but, construction-wise, it doesn't really feel like a vintage O-ring figure. So I'd like to see Venomous Maximus sort of redesigned, seeing as he's kind of the Serpentor of the 2000s. I'd like to see him just straight up, like, classic 82 to 94 style card and construction. I think that could be something really fun.
Yeah, it's cool.
And the other figure, and this is another weird one, but it's kind of because the precedent's already there. I'd like to see a Fatal Fluffy, but I would like to see it done in the same build construction style as the 1993 Monstro and Bio Viper. So same sort of build. Like, it's not really an O-ring figure, but like it is, because that's, we've already got something like that.
That's a great idea. A great idea
that'll never happen because of tooling costs, but it's a great idea.
It's brilliant because, it would, like, again, it wouldn't stand out. It would fit into that Mega Monsters kind of arena. So if you had that, like, group of figures, it's perfect for that. And also works really well with those particular figures and characters from Pyramid of Darkness. And you can have a little Fatal Fluffy that comes with it as well. How cute would that be?
It's so cute. Well, so since they're doing the animated Sunbow style O-ring figures now, Duke, Cobra Commander, etc., it seems like all the more timely that maybe now we finally go into some of those cartoon only concepts that never had toys and aren't just repaints, but strange stuff like that. I mean, I would have said like Boy George Snake Eyes, but that has Super 7 written all over it, so let them have that one. But
so much of the animated stuff has Super 7.
It's probably already planned.
Done.
Yeah, it's already on a boat here. It's going to show up at Target.
They just drop it in about 3 weeks' time.
Adam did the art for it, and he hasn't seen it yet, or done it yet, which is impossible.
If the listeners want a good way to be clued in on the things that I haven't worked on, if I've worked on it, I wouldn't even joke about it or allude to it out of fear of a lawsuit. So if I'm talking about it, I didn't do it.
Mine's really easy. It's Lightfoot version 1 and Lightfoot Night Force. That's it. Just those two, please.
As a 2-pack.
Was it? What's the enemies? Ultimate enemies versus pack.
No, but to make it different for me, so it's not a reissue, we'll just paint them right down the center. One half.
One half. Version 1 and 1 half.
Two-face Lightfoot.
The light feet 2-pack.
I like it. I just want to see Lightfoot again. If I see Lightfoot again in any way, shape, or form, I'll be really excited. And I would have had him in my kind of classified.
What would really kill you, Chris, is imagine if they did another HasLab in a couple of years' time, and he was like the last stretch goal.
Oh, don't. And they don't get it, and they don't make it. And he's in development like hell with the pit crew, and that would suck. They would do that as well. I think the fandom would do that just because they hate me so much. Okay, let's get on to the next part of this wonderfully massive monthly bumper episode, guys, and that is version therapy. Hey there, guys! Just wanted to let you know about an app that I've been helping to develop for a few years now called Hoardar. But what is Hoardar, I hear you scream? Well, a number of years ago I discussed a project with a good friend of mine and now co-owner/developer about an app that could help collectors of all shapes and sizes. I'm talking about the shapes and sizes of the collections really, but also people. The app would be a place where you could share your new items, build collections and sub-collections, or just browse the feed to see cool things. Well, we made it. We tested it for a number of years, and now it's out there for you to enjoy on iOS or Android devices. You can upload a single item at a time at your own pace and slowly build your collections. You can post status updates that could be related to your collections, like getting a delivery or posting a scene in which you can tag items in that image if you've uploaded them in the past. You can add tags to your items in order to easily search for and find them, and of course to add them into your respective collections. You can like posts, comment on them, or start a conversation with a fellow collector, directly message users you follow, and even add items you see on your feed to your want list. If you prefer to use your computer or laptop, have no fear, you can use the website browser version and even utilise the awesome inventory option, allowing any user to change certain details, add notes, upload bulk items from spreadsheet files, and download a CSV of your entire itemised collection. We made this app for collectors, and we hope that you enjoy using it as much as we enjoyed creating it. Now get to hoarding. Continuing with our brand new monthly segment now, Version Therapy, is where we choose a single G.I. Joe or Cobra character and have a discussion on what action figure version is their best. Now, of course, we are all probably going to have different opinions on this based on when we were born, personal experience, and so on, but that's where the fun lies. Feel free to also let us know who your favourite action figure version is and why in the comments below as well. So who have we got next? Well, last month we looked at Storm Shadow for the discussion, so we thought it would be good time to shift away from the core character hump and jump straight into, very topically and current, Dr. Mindbender. Now, Mindbender's had a pretty decent amount of versions, enough for us to have a conversation about them, definitely. So let's start off then, guys, with our choice of our favourite, and then we'll move around the group. And we'll come back to Paddy again to start us off with. Paddy, who is your favourite version of the bad Doctor?
Well, despite the fact that I look shockingly like him, except for the muscles, he's actually one of my least favourite characters in G.I. Joe. Good. That makes this an even better conversation. And therefore, the only one that I think is even remotely passable as a figure and character design is the Battle Core version, version 2. I can get into it when one of you is obviously going to pick version 1, the Circus Strongman looking fella. But the version 1 design just doesn't make sense to me as a scientist. Why not? He's half naked. He's in a lab. There's caustic chemicals everywhere. He's going to get burned in that outfit he's wearing or not wearing. Why do you think he doesn't have any nipple? Why do you think the new version doesn't have any nipples? So the Battle Core version at least makes sense for something a scientist might wear. It covers his skin. And I also like the addition of like cybernetic parts and so on. I think that's a cool concept for him as a character. So that's why I think that's my preferred version of Mindbender. That's a good shout, actually, and I think it is quite oddly well loved in the community, that version 2 Mindbender. There's like you say, I think for those reasons, the kind of cybernetic angle, the less ridiculous looking design, and also that I love that purple and yellow, like the Lakers Mindbender. It's well done.
There's somebody that really loved the Lakers at that time because they got that Night Creeper leader in there too. I don't know. We'd have to ask around the office at that time who was the Lakers fan on R&D in 1993 and 4.
It's so true. All right, well, we've got Paddy's. Adam, what do you think of that first before we move on to yours? Unless it's the same, in which case you can merge them together. No, good. Okay, great. Go for it.
that was so. I think a lot of the reason why that Mindbender is probably more beloved in the community than you might expect it to be is because for people like me, that was the first Mindbender I ever had. I think for a lot. I think G.I. Joe generationally, the original line really has two groups. It has the 82 to like 89, and then you have got like the 90 to 94. And I fall more into the later category. And I think for those of us though, we also grew up watching Sunbow, so there's all these characters that we love, like Scarlet, Baroness, Mindbender, that we take this stuff for granted now. But there was no figures for them for the better part of 10 years, and there was no internet to get them, and so they just didn't exist. Unless you had a friend that had an older brother or something, yard sale, good luck, whatever, you just didn't have them, period. Like, so you were more appreciative of to just have the character. You didn't even care if they were in the same outfit they were in the cartoon. And so like Ninja Force Scarlet was my first Scarlet, Battlecore Mindbender is my first Mindbender. I don't think that he is quite as exciting as version 1 as a figure just because of the soft goods and the accessories and stuff. But like I have a lot of fond feelings for that Mindbender just because it was my first one.
Yeah.
But
lead that into your actual fave then. What's your top pick for Mindbender?
Okay, so I think this is going to be...
It's going to be my favourite, and that's going to ruin me, and I'm going to have to pick something else.
Well, we'll see.
Upsetting
I think actually,
me. It's already upsetting me.
I think I'm going to get guffawed at like this is a cheat, but my favorite is the 1995 unreleased Battlecore Rangers version.
I'm so happy you said that.
So I kind of wrote this out, but I'm going to count it because I have one. I know O-ring figures don't have the most realistic details or proportions, but this figure almost benefits from that. He is so demented that if it were any more realistic, it wouldn't have that same sort of theater of the mind impact the way that it does right now. This figure has gruesome surgical scars all over the head. It's got a webbed hand, and you know why? Because he's been doing experiments on himself, which is so dark and creepy and awesome. I think it's a total shame that it wasn't released because, in my opinion, and I know we have this thing where we all mythologize unreleased figures, but I really think in this case, had this figure been released, from what we know, it absolutely would have been the standout figure of 1995. And he's got that cool, like, underwater helmet with those tubes. It's like this figure is so many weird things. Like he looks like he's one part Hydro Viper, one part like Frankenstein. Like it's just there's so much going on there. And I have an unpainted one, but there are some painted photos. There is some card art floating around out there now. So over the years we've gotten to see this concept a little more fleshed out.
Am I right in saying he also appears on the unreleased tactical battle platform artwork as well, climbing up the ladder?
Yep, that you're right.
And there wasn't there for ages a bit of an argument going on as to who the heck that was. They didn't, because there was the hoses looking like horns and so on and so. Yeah, okay, cool.
And it was only, I want to say, I think it was in the lead up to HasCon in 2017, 18.
Yeah.
2017.
That was the first time I believe that the full card art for that figure had ever been seen publicly, and that just reopened. I mean, I already had the figure long before then, but I think that just upped my imagination for it that much more. I just can't say enough cool things about it. It's just, especially I think in that era, people often are down on the neon and the colors and stuff, and I think that 95 was really going to be a return to form for G.I. Joe. Like
and
the
colors
were a lot more subdued, and just the detail, the sculpt is unbelievable. Like they look so much more detailed than they had in previous years. I feel like they were onto something really cool with that figure, and I can't emphasize what a shame it is that we didn't get it, but hopefully we'll have lots of cool images we can flash up here, and you can all salivate over how cool this figure would have been. And I will say this, if I thought there was any chance that Hasbro had any actual desire to put that figure out now, I would happily lend mine to them for 3D scanning. So it's not even like, I'm not even saying this is like I want to like lord it over people that I have one. I want everyone to have this figure. It's that good. Like I think it's genuinely a travesty that it's not out there, and I really hope that one day they do consider finding a way to get this thing out, because they have the card art sitting there. Like, people would love it. Great figure.
I have to agree. I think it's so cool. I'm really glad you went in that direction because, one, we were going to have to bring this up anyway, so I'm glad that you did and covered it comfortably. So yeah, I'm totally accepting that as your favourite version. Absolutely. Paddy, you've seen that figure before, right?
I have, yeah. I typically share pictures and stuff in our messaging group and so on. I honestly think that's the sort of thing I'd love them to do with the new O-ring line, is just their limited release is only on Hasbro Pulse anyway. you don't need to give people more Cobra Troopers or another Cobra Commander or another Duke. Give us the weird stuff, guys. There are 10,000 people out there that would be happy to own that Mindbender. Like if they did an exclusive run of it, it would sell out in no time, I'm sure. So I would love for people to get that figure. It just looks, it's an escalation of Mindbender's existing design. It feeds into all the stuff we've been talking about this episode about, him experimenting on people and the Hydro Viper and, genetically engineering Cobra Troopers and so on. So it's something I'd love them to see. Take a chance on and put it out there. Do it as part of a HasLab in the future as a stretch goal.
I totally agree with you on the O-ring thing. I couldn't be less enthused when I see figures that have not just been reissued, but when they've been reissued multiple times already. And I kind of go like, okay, I get it, because we're at that kind of like beginning point and we're in the core character hump, as I've quite beautifully described it in the past. But I really do think this is an opportunity now to get your Fatal Fluffies, your unreleased, Ninja Commandos, which I, you could argue kind of did get some sort of release, but not in the way they were intended to be released. So let's get our Ninja Commandos done. Let's get our Battle Corps Rangers done. Let's get that Baroness out there. That dope Baroness figure. Let's get that Dr. Mindbender figure out there. But Mindbender and Baroness would be a great 2-pack, wouldn't it? Like those unreleased kind of... Because they kind of like in similar era, similar kind of like crazy updated design on the previous. Please. Let's do it. Let's do that, Hasbro.
Paddy brought up something really interesting. This doesn't have anything to do with anything, but just kind of a sidebar. I love that the original line, the characters escalated. It's like they literally were aging with you. Like the original Mindbender then goes into version 2, which almost has that thing on his head that looks like Lobot from Empire Strikes Back.
Yep.
And then version 3, it's like he's that much more experimented on. Now he has scars from where that thing was. And I think it's so subtle, and it's like, you can just really tell the love that went into this stuff. And it's almost like, or like seeing like, Outback's hair turned gray because he aged or whatever. Like I love the narrative aspect of that, or like that, Roadblock in Classified version 2 has like this big beard now that he's grown out. Like I like the idea of the characters almost going through this unspoken like saga with you, where they're progressing and advancing and aging and changing. Like I think that's such a cool thing that I hope that they continue to do as Classified and O-Ring move forward now, just to keep that in mind, that the character should keep evolving, but building upon, where they've already been in their adventure. It's just a very fun narrative.
And just like in Old Age, all the Ninja Force characters lost the ability to move any of their body parts properly. Yes. so it's like, Snake Eyes, so all of a sudden, hips ain't working now, guys, sorry.
Those hips don't lie, I'm old.
Oh, amazing. I totally agree, and I think that's somewhere I'd love to see that O-ring line kind of going. But even like I don't mind too much like the odd reissue that we haven't seen again for a long period of time. Like there's loads of characters that have kind of come out in those comic 2-packs and kind of a little bit, in here and there in special releases in the club and all that kind of stuff. But there are so many characters that we haven't seen for a long time, and I don't mind those being reissued. That you could still argue are still kind of, in the kind of core arena. But I'm definitely one for, I want to see the unreleased. I want to see you guys get really weird with it, like really weird with it. Get some like cool homages, characters that were never released in O-Ring. That's what I want to see. Anyway, speaking of that, my choice goes nowhere near the O-Ring. In actual fact, mine is from the 2015 official G.I. Joe Collectors Club membership exclusive figure. And the reason behind this is more to do with the time I got it, but then also like the fact that it was part of the movie, the actual film, and we're getting modern interpretations of the figures straight off the screen. That was like making me really happy. And you might argue that obviously the jacket is it hinders a lot of articulation. He's a blooming scientist, guys. He ain't doing backflips. This guy isn't doing that kind of stuff. Like, he's in a wind, like in this scenario, he's sitting in a stun in his jacket, just kind of going, just saying that every now and again. But I just thought this figure was just beautifully executed. simplistic as well. But when I got into the club, I think this would have been one of the first. Obviously, Footloose was my first. I can't remember what year that was. Do you remember what year that was?
2012.
2012. So it was still like, a few years into the kind of like being involved in the club. Going to the conventions was another kind of thing that I didn't do until Dallas. So when I remember getting this figure, and I was living on my own at the time in Norwich, in this really cool flat in Norwich. I loved that flat. It was wicked. But I remember getting that, and I was in my studio, and I took pictures of it and everything. I've still got the picture of it on my desk in my studio. I was just like really excited to get this figure for some reason, mainly because of the movie. And I think my connection to the film, the early years of being involved with the club, I hadn't gotten to know half of the people that I know now in the fandom, in the community. So like, I don't think, had I met you at that point, Paddy?
Yes.
Roll call. What year was that though? 14. So yeah, it was still early. Still early in our blossoming.
2013 is when we met for roll call.
Our blossoming relationship hadn't really blossomed at all. I think we just met and I spoke to you in a kind of interview-based thing, hadn't I?
Exactly, yeah. You spoke to myself and Brian for like 20 minutes.
On a couch.
For the podcast, yeah.
Well, we kissed.
That's right.
What? Yeah, so for me, like, it's kind of like the beginning of that whole experience of kind of like growing into this ridiculous thing that it is now. So yeah, that's one of the reasons I absolutely love this, but also the figure's just so cool. The color's vibrant, and it's just, like I said, it's straight out of the movie. Adam, I'm going to come to you first because I know you love the film. What were your thoughts about this particular figure when it came out?
Well, my thoughts when it came out were that all I ever wanted to do when I was doing stuff for the club was paint packaging art for things that had to do with the movie, and I got to do approximately none of them. But I love this figure. There was a real push around that time period where everyone was like, all the stuff that we bought from 2007 and 8 is invalid now because the sculpts have gotten better, the technology's gotten better, we need to remake everything. And I never really bought into that so much. Like, I was like, come on, like, it was within the last 5 years we've bought all the core characters. We don't need to do this again, But the only modern era Mindbender we had was the one from the Assault, or was it Defense of Cobra Island 7
yeah.
2009. And he had a lot of reused tooling. He had kind of the basketball shoulders a little bit. The head sculpt was a little soft. Good for the time, but not great. When this figure came out, that new head sculpt, I was jonesing to see it used in other places. I thought for sure we're going to get another Mindbender version 1 now with that head and some upgrades, and it didn't happen. And so that head sculpt on this figure is completely unique to just this figure, which is really kind of a surprise. Like, and there was a few instances of that towards the end of the club where you thought for sure, like Slaughter's Marauder Spirit, you thought for sure would end up being Air Commandos, and it didn't.
Dojo?
Stuff like that.
Dojo.
Dojo. Oh, yeah.
Headman. Yeah.
Headman, yeah. Yeah, there's a few of those that they just, unfortunately, I guess timing left them hanging. But Mindbender, though, there was plenty of time, and it just never happened. And so, for whatever reason, it really helps to make this figure that much more special and unique to me. And it was just kind of an out of the box pick too at the time for a membership figure. I thought, oh well, this is going to mean we're going to do a whole new Arctic theme now. Maybe we'll get an Arctic box set or something. But it never happened. So he just kind of exists in his own universe as this one Arctic figure, and he's really cool. I kind of think that makes it that much more special. It's weird to say I feel nostalgic for the club because it's barely been a few years, but like I am, and I feel like this figure is part of the reason why. It was every year you'd look forward to like.
Can I just say, how are we not billionaires now after not having club product to buy for the last?
Hasbro's doing their damnedest to make.
Hasbro has 3 toy lines going on.
Yeah.
Everybody has a license now.
That's why
we've moved from 1 G.I. Joe licensor to 100 G.I. Joe licensors.
Even if those figures are all 1/3 the price, there's 3 times as many. So but yeah, I don't know. I could say an endless amount of good things about this figure. I really love it. And at the time, I remember thinking it was a little strange. Like, oh, why would they use like an environmental themed version as a membership figure? Because usually the membership figure is like a very like top shelf A-list. Like, this is the reason you're subscribing for the year.
We got some great figures in that whole era of exclusive, like kind of membership incentives, didn't we?
Yeah.
Like, we got some absolute beasts. Pythona's still probably up there as my favorite modern era figure of all time.
Pythona, Footloose, Cross Country. I mean, some really like serious home run figures. But yeah, that Mindbender, he sits comfortably right among them. I think it's a So it's just a really, really great figure, and I'm happy that there's both a carded and bagged version out there for the people that want that. But yeah, he's great. I only wish we'd gotten more stuff to go with him in that theme.
He's also one of the few times the club did something that wasn't just directly aiming a vintage release.
Yeah.
The club had a tendency just to flat out just replicate a vintage figure in their bills and so on, even though sometimes there was better parts choices out there to make
a slight upgrade or something.
An upgrade of that figure, make a more aesthetically pleasing version of that figure. So I like it the Arctic Mindbender because it's one of the few times the club actually thought outside the box. In what they were doing in terms of construction and a membership figure and so on.
Yeah, it's
actually a really interesting point because you didn't prior to recently, you really didn't see hardly anything that was directly based on the Sunbow animation. In fact, that might be the only figure that, like, for sure is based on that up until the last couple of years.
And Pythona.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. There's not much. Then I'll start listing off and this one and.
Well, I mean, but
Pythona.
I mean, yeah, okay. I mean, Big Lob for sure, but like Pythona does exist, in comics and stuff. So like she does have other media that you could argue she was also in, but yeah, Big Lob for sure. But yeah, that Mindbender, and there's no denying exactly what he's from, and I think that's a really cool distinction that because you just didn't see a lot of that back then.
I actually quite like his accessories too. That giving him that little laptop and yeah, and then the backpack, the classic that blimmin'. Sci-fi backpack in purple upside down, just random shiz.
The box with the javelin stick thing with a hose, yeah.
Amazing. But yeah, big fan of that figure. Artwork's nice as well. Really like the artwork. Sorry, Adam. I love the fact that you worked on over 50 card backs for them, and somehow didn't get any of the movie version, and they did so well. They did a few, obviously, Big Lob, Pythona, this particular figure. How's that?
Those are the ones that really stick out in my mind as being like specifically like movie related. That I was like, surely I'm gonna get one of these, but no.
No, here, have Fun School Windmill instead.
Yeah. That's all right, though. I always said that the number one figure I mean this to this day, the number one figure I still wish I could illustrate the packaging for is Armadillo, because I love the challenge of taking like, the worst like turd and trying to polish it into gold. So,
Armadillo's got to be one of the blandest looking characters.
Oh, I can't even believe that figure exists. Like when you look at
the Rolling Thunder
conversation, but when you look at all the unreleased stuff, and you're like, how did some of these amazing concepts not get made, but this somehow did? Like, it's just mind blowing.
Why is Steamroller a thing and Battle Ranger Mindbender is not?
I will argue to hell and back for Steamroller, but Armadillo, there's just nothing going on, is there? Like, at least with Steamroller, there's tattoos, there's a cool hat, there's like, he's got his bits out and he looks ugly as sin.
He's been beaten with the ugly stick.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a lot of personality there. But with Armadillo, it is just literally a goofy helmet, a shirt, and some pants. And it's like that. There you go.
Armadillo must have been
sounds like he'd be perfect for the modern day classified line.
I almost want to guarantee you, without knowing, I bet you that Armadillo was like somebody's relative that they based the likeness on or something. Because
including their clothes.
It's too unusual. Yeah, including the clothes. Because it's just too unusual. Like, he's just very like mustard yellow, drab shirt, brown. Like the most generic. Like
it's It's almost like a green shirt driver, isn't it? But not.
Yeah, in that face sculpt, he's got that.
Yeah, it's odd. Anyway. It's still oddly.
Duke repaint in the future.
There you go.
Yeah.
I still like him, and what is that about? It's weird, isn't it? It's like G.I. Joe has this weird effect on me.
Yeah, I mean, the worst G.I. Joe is still better than most other lines' best figures. So
Well, on that note, that's a great way to sign off this epic bumper episode of the monthly. Guys, thank you so much for jumping on and chatting, upcoming classified kookiness, Dr. Mindbender favourite versions. Really appreciate you guys jumping on and chatting with me. Thank you, Paddy.
Thanks for having me, Chris, as always.
And thank you, Adam.
It's the Full Force Monthly. You're welcome.
Thanks, Pat.
It's the Full Force Monthly.
Sorry, I'll throw in another Pat. It's the Full Force Monthly just before he goes, and everyone's going to be like, well, hang on, was Pat here the whole time? No, he wasn't. Guys, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, as always. We'll be back with more weeklies and Newsburst Lives and all that kind of good stuff. And obviously our next monthly will be in May. We have no idea what we're going to be talking about yet, but we'll try and keep it fairly topical and current, with a veering towards the more, vintage, as we always do.
I still think we should do that suggestion I had where we wanted to talk about the most dangerous G.I. Joe vehicles for their drivers.
I totally agree on that. That's definitely on the list.
Well, if this is a suggestion box segment, that retaliation 10-year is upon us. So we gotta jump into that. There's toys to discuss. There's
what
movie
month did it come out?
If only one of us had written a book about them.
If only some of us had bought all the figures and know everything about it and watched the movie. What I will say as well on that is that it came out in the summer, didn't it? It's like June, July time. Is that right?
Something like that.
If we'll aim for that monthly in the month of its release, because that's a great idea. The Retaliation 10-year anniversary monthly. I'm sure
when you're ready to get low viewership numbers. Yeah.
We'll have to get The Rock on just to boost the numbers, won't we?
Say he's going to be here. There's enough clips you can insert.
I'll just pretend.
Hey, Rock, what time?
Hey, Rock, how much did you get paid for this movie? It doesn't matter.
It's the Full Force Monthly.
Imagine. Could you imagine me getting him on the show? My goodness.
He probably has a cameo for like $8 million you can buy on cameo.com or whatever.
I'm not doing that. I will speak to his agent.
Support the Full Force Patreon so we can afford to pay $8 million.
Yeah, guys,
an hour sometime in May or June this year.
Pour that money in and we'll get The Rock on, no doubt. We'll get a Rock on in more ways than one. Anyway, guys, it's been a pleasure. We will bring it to a close now because my wife and I would like to eat food now, and I'm sure you guys would too. But Paddy would probably just like to go to sleep now at midnight.
Let's go to bed, please, yeah.
Right then, that brings us to the end of the episode. Thank you for joining us for the Full Force Monthly. Massive thank you to my awesome co-hosts, Paddy Lennon and Adam Riches. See you next month. And as always, after 3, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Just find retailers everywhere this week. Full Force.
Brilliant. Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing and commenting on these videos, and as always you can keep up with the show after listening by following on Twitter @TheFullForce, liking the Facebook page facebook.com/TheFullForce, and if you would like to contact the show you can message us on either of those platforms with feedback and questions. We also have a Patreon page, so if you want to show your support for the show, see your name up in lights on these videos, or enjoy exclusive bonus content, then check out patreon.com/TheFullForce podcast, or click on the link on any of the posts this podcast appears in. Full Force.